I've seen so many cases where they forcefully did the tokenization and the end results are usually pretty nasty. Hype is going to fade sometime, but good technology, good foundation will go a very long way. Retail customers will always have more money than investors, combined. In a nutshell, nothing is going to be taxed, right? So I'm not going to say how this can be done, but the thing is, it can be done.
Hello everyone. Welcome to the next issue of Stobox Interview, a video series where we bring industry rock stars to discuss the future of crypto, tokenization, capital markets, and finance overall. Meet our today's guest, Andy Lian, an intergovernmental blockchain expert, member of the advisory board at Hyundai Technologies, prolific speaker and book author. We're going to speak about the adoption of blockchain, future regulation, and commercialization of crypto solutions. Andy, it's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Hi, Boris. Good to see you again, and happy to see everyone this evening.
We are your all-time hosts, Boris Pekalov and Ross Shemilyak, co-founders at Stobox. Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so that you don't miss other fantastic interviews, as it provides you with an edge over everybody else in terms of knowledge and understanding of the industry. Now let's go to the business. Andy, please tell us about yourself and your activities.
Well, I'm more known in the private and public sector, with blockchain adoption in Asia. So I'm also one of the first few blockchain advocate that is more pro-government. So if you look at my resume, I spent a good amount of time with government, with different government services. And of course, in the earlier days, I also founded my own supply chain blockchain company. Fast forwarding to right now, things that I'm doing, I'm with the advisory board of Hyundai, DAC. So they are the blockchain arm of Hyundai Motor Group. I was also formerly the blockchain advisor to Asia Blockchain, the Asian Productivity Organization. I'm still the Gyeongsangbuk Blockchain Special Committee in South Korea. I'm a book author, and most recently, I also took on an advisory role with CZZ. They are actually the world's first programmable trading blockchain network. So there's a lot of exciting things that professionally, and also on the investment front, I'm also actively looking at companies that are promising, companies that have good technology, and definitely interested to put my few cents worth or my few cents into the company and grow together with them, in the longer term. So this is what I'm doing, in a very quick summarized version.
That's very exciting, very multifaceted activity on many fronts, which definitely gets exposed to different kinds of insights and applications and what's going on overall. And speaking about what's going on in the blockchain, the big problems that we had previously in the last probably decade is that majority of blockchain solutions have been created by engineers for engineers, and for this our narrow community, and the applications were limited. So on your opinion, are we transitioning to mass commercialization of applications of blockchain becoming accessible to everyone? What limited this spreading of these solutions for mass adoption? And are we going to see a blockchain-based app on every smartphone very soon?
It's a big question. It's a big question. Yeah. So first of all, when we talk about mobile networks, I do know of some blockchain companies right now who is working on the blockchain OS operating system for phones. I think that is a fair bit far-fetched, or will take a fair bit more time to make sure that it works, right? But if you look at the apps or the dApps that we see in the market right now, I think the dApps are totally mimicking what the current apps are doing. So I think there could be a way, to introduce more dApps onto smartphones or onto a web-based kind of situation. But again, these are layers and these are steps to adoption, right? So right now, this current moment, we do see that, companies or these development companies are producing other smart contract-based or debt-based kind of apps that works wonderfully in our mobile phone environment. But is that a mass adoption? I still think that we are a bit far from that. Mainly because of a few things. One is most of the blockchain implementation take place mainly from an enterprise level. So on the consumer front, you do not really see what we used to see. Oh, this is powered by blockchain, and which part is powered by blockchain and things like that. That will start to get a lot of questions in the market. How this is being done? Is it being safe? Is it trustworthy? So forth and so on. I think we have not reached that stage yet, but on the enterprise level, I'm very sure banks are using it. I know clearing houses are using this. Financial payment companies are also doing that. Peer-to-peer lending companies are doing that. So we do see it from an enterprise or B2B kind of model that is already working in the background. So that is already a very, very good step for the industry. But in terms of B2C, I think the adoption level is not as high as we want to, depending on how you talk about adoption, right? So many of my friends, in Singapore, they do not really, have a wallet as per se. They are fairly confused. I say, hey, can I? They want to buy some cryptocurrency, and they came to me for help. I said, okay, sure. What do you want? USDT. Oh, okay. Is it a ERC20? Is it a TRC20? Or is it a BEP? The whole list goes on. When we talk about all this sort of trying to adopt. People will not understand what we are trying to say. What was the ERC20 USDD? What is a TRC20 USDD? It's just very confusing, right? So to a point when we want to see a mass adoption, I think the most important thing is we have to see more people understanding how the different wallets are going to work, how the different dApps are going to work. And we also need a fair bit of a push from the government side of things, because if the government is proactively saying that, hey, if you are going to use a blockchain payment network, you will get A advantage, B advantage, and C advantage, then things for us will be a lot easier and a lot faster. But do we see that happening right now? I don't think so. All right, and we still have to work very hard, to make sure that the education portion is well received by the intended target audience. So mass adoption, I think we are working towards it, but not to the extent that we want to see. Everyone knows what we are talking about. Everyone knows the different standards, and so forth. So I don't really see that happening right now.
Yeah, you mentioned that currently we can oversee a big demand from the B2B businesses to implement blockchain solutions. But very important to mention for our viewers that blockchain not fits for every company. That's why we in Stobox help clients advising and do not spend money in different ways, because blockchain, it is not about a hype. Blockchain, it is about using the distributed ledger technology, and it is very important to know. And also, you mentioned about the government, yeah, and government activities. And I wonder, from your experience working with government groups, are they looking to help for businesses to implement blockchain solution, or to make some connection with businesses to discuss their potential regulatory movements of the laws?
I think we have to separate this into a few parts. Yeah, are governments actively pushing, introducing blockchain solutions? My answer to you is no, because blockchain to them is still not the main core driver. Are the governments understanding blockchain and using blockchain? Some of them, yes, but not all of them understand how blockchain is going to work. The third part that I want to separate this out is the government promoting it right now. I think nope, because there's still a connection between blockchain technology and cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, which is very volatile. this is the kind of a stigma that is already in the market, and it will take some time to unlock it. It will take some time to disconnect these two things together, because for practitioner or experts, they will see these two as something different. But from a government standpoint, or even to the retail people or retail investor, common people, they don't really see the difference between blockchain and cryptocurrency. And again, as we move on in this bull market, we do see many other scams that are in the market right now. In Singapore, people losing $2-3 million in a Ponzi crypto scheme. All these things are very bad publicity, and then all this bad publicity are also holding back on how government is trying to help us, right? But again, taking Singapore as an example, blockchain causes, there's a form of subsidy. There's the companies adopting new technologies such as blockchain, they get some kind of a grant. So I think Singapore is 100% very friendly. I can't say for all other countries in terms of grants for all the SMEs and all the companies, but Singapore is definitely doing a fine job in this. Adding on to another point that Ross has also mentioned is about adoption. I think the word adoption, tokenization, and so forth in the current space is definitely overused by many wannabe blockchain consultants or blockchain expert, because in order for tokenization to happen, there are a lot of different steps that you need to make sure that there are lots of steps in place before you adopt it. So if there's no need to make any blockchain adoption, there's no need to tokenize it. My always humble advice is to tell them, walk away from it, because tokenization are not necessarily the best option for your company. Tokenizing your company asset or equity, maybe into an STO kind of format, might not necessarily be cheaper or more effective than an IPO. So again, we have to sit down with the proper companies, with the good investor, what kind of route they are trying to take on. Fundraising routes, expansion routes. So there's a lot of different aspects when we talk about tokenization. It's not just submit the documents, do a fair bit of on-chain checks, and then off you go. You get a few $million in your company's accounts. It doesn't work this way. It doesn't work this way. So I would also love to take this opportunity to tell your audience and some of our friends as well that if you want to tokenize, go to the right source, go to the right consultant, and always be prepared that, well, there's no need to tokenize and just walk away, because I've seen so many cases where they forcefully did the tokenization and the end results are usually pretty nasty.
Probably tokenization works best for companies who have their community and who need to create an engagement, for the companies who are exciting and therefore can generate significant interest from the blockchain community, from investors. And on the other hand, to generate liquidity, people constantly trading, which is one of the benefits of tokenization. However, I would say that it's changing as well. And mentioning the point of stigma that you mentioned, I think that after 2020, the stigma has been significantly reduced. If you said a few years ago that you invest in crypto or that you do something with crypto, you would be considered either a geek or a criminal. Currently, this is considered more like a conventional financial instrument and another thing for some more or less sophisticated traders. So I think that we will see expansion of investors who are interested in tokenized assets to a higher number of more traditional, more conservative investors who do not necessarily demand double-digit returns, triple-digit returns that common crypto community. And with this, tokenization becomes feasible for a larger number of companies.
Yeah, what you mentioned, Boris, We had previously the interview with Samson Williams, you can check here. And Samson Williams is a blockchain professor from US University. And he always says that customers have more money than investors.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
true. But coming back again to the same point that Boris minutes ago, I think that there must always be a good selling point and also a good intention. You know, I have seen projects with a good intention, but didn't do well. Yeah. But then I also see projects with I would say quite funny or ridiculous tokenization model. You know, recently, you know, some of them they did something like a mineral and gold DeFi kind of thing. Um, um, I don't think that is going to work too well in this current market. You know, some of them will say that, you know, gold and mineral DeFi, you know, might be something for the future, not now. But to me, is there's no need to there's no need to tokenize or place them in a decentralized finance framework for gold and mineral, because ultimately you could do very well in your own traditional space. Why tokenize? Because that doesn't make sense to me, you know, in my humble opinion. So again, I think doing the right thing, like Ross has mentioned, is important. Having your own community when you tokenize your products is also important, because this same rules do apply to traditional business as well. You know, as long as you have a good, strong community, you have a strong supporting cast, some supporting group, your company will definitely do a lot better, you know, in the retail space. And you're right, retail customers will always have more money than investors, you know, combined. So I think that's a very fair statement.
Yeah, I definitely agree that decentralization per se may not be feasible in many solutions, in many cases, and it is primarily either for governance or for cases when you want to remove an intermediary who may abuse the trust, for example, which is not the case for mineral resources, I would say. However, blockchain-related solutions in mining still may be feasible, I think, one, to reduce the cost of capital and to see alternative financing solutions, or in order to provide greater liquidity for existing investors, again, to make the investment more attractive for them. And secondly, from the perspective of supply chain and tracking the movement of everything. So these solutions still may be relevant. Whether we would be able to fit DeFi here, maybe only in some indirect ways, such as, for example, staking of security tokens in liquidity protocols that are backed by assets from the mining, something like that. So it's always a question of creating. DeFi is always about creativity and about very interesting solutions. And sometimes creativity is very good and creates either very attractive returns or solves the complex problems. But sometimes creativity is making things more complex than they should be.
True.
Yeah, regarding DeFi, so currently decentralized finance is the most essential application of blockchain, something that Satoshi Nakamoto probably dreamed of, as it transfers the function performed by regulated intermediaries to the technology. Andy, do you think it is realistic to expect the DeFi will significantly replace traditional intermediaries, and how it be regulated?
Again, three different approaches. First one, will DeFi replace the traditional finance? I think the answer is no in the short term. In the longer term, I think my answer will still be no, because it will be good to see both working hand in hand. But would there be a hybrid model where the on-chain stuff and the off-chain finance work closely together? I think there is a big chance. Banks are actually looking at decentralized finance in their own domain. I have friends who are in the lending space, are also looking at implementing DeFi onto their current platform. I think the promise for DeFi is bigger than how we felt 1 year ago. Right now, you know, again, DeFi is not just about borrowing, lending, and so forth. There are many ways to produce and create new products out from DeFi. It could be even a fund, it could be an ETF, it could be insurance products. So the list goes on. It's more like how we imagine, uh, um, what DeFi can do, in versus what the traditional market can do. Or maybe the other way around that I always share, with my friends, and also in different roundtable, is more of how you can use DeFi to make a better traditional finance system, a lot more efficient, a lot more capable, in this way, because there are ways that you could make the current traditional finance a lot more efficient, from the KYC process to the AML processes and so forth. Blockchain and decentralized finance can definitely quicken up the whole process. So again, I think DeFi it has a long way to go, a lot longer than some of the other use cases. For example, supply chain, or even pure tokenizing of companies, because DeFi is working on a track that may be able to change how the whole finance system work. If we are able to make that work, everything else from STOs, for example, will make a lot more sense. It's not just about putting up your shares onto a STO platform, and then you share your revenue, you share your debt, and so forth. These are common characteristics of how the revenue can be shared. But if you can tokenize the whole company, what's stopping you from putting this up on the DeFi platform, where you could straight away find a buyer, straight away, pledge your collaterals, straight away pledge your STO tokens, and just get and keep churning out new money, new interest for all your stakeholders, right? So I think DeFi is working on a track that is definitely a lot more sustainable than 1 year ago. Because 1 year ago, if you look at it, many of these DeFi solutions or DeFi companies are very Ponzi-like, right? Because they promise big returns, and then how did the big returns come about, right? So with the different staking, with the different liquidity pool, with the different schemes and so forth, right now is a lot more mature. But again, there's still a long way to go, because the adoption is still low in the traditional space. Is the government putting their efforts to regulate DeFi platforms? I think, again, this thing is going to take some time, because the regulation for centralized exchanges or even normal tokens are still not very certain in many different countries. So if they straight away move to a decentralized realm, I think they will be just way too busy to find a proper solution. So right now, I know that regulating decentralized network is part of their regulations or part of their plan. But trust me, this is not going to come too early. There are too many things to fight, too many things to worry about. So DeFi or decentralized network regulations will come, but it will come slightly later.
Yeah, what I want to mention, what I see from my perspective, that currently public investors associated DeFi with printing money. So a lot of project it is real, printing their tokens to get the possibility to stake and to get more these tokens, and it doesn't make sense. It is like in Bitcoin 5 years ago, Bitcoin was associated with dark market. Why? Yeah, so fiat is also using for some bad movements, yes, and it is strange. So I think it is a long way of adoption DeFi, yeah, especially to change this association and to provide with great opportunities, because as you mentioned, Andy, and you, Boris, the main idea is to break the intermediary and make the financial instruments more feasible and more easier for the public investors.
True, true.
Boris?
Yeah, I assume that when we'll see more companies and more finance moving into decentralization, we will see also even greater importance of community, of building the community from scratch and being a community-driven business. And I wonder, Andy, from your perspective, as you have been involved in marketing of blockchain projects as well, how should uh, and blockchain projects, and especially more traditional ones who are the enters digital assets, approach building the community in order to enable the sustainable financing, sustainable growth of their token and the revenue?
Um, I think for any companies, not just blockchain companies or crypto companies, there must be a certain group or a certain community backing the group. Whether today you are a toy company, you get parents or children to know your brand, and or whether you are a restaurant, you produce good food and then you have a following. I think the concept of producing good companies are always the same, But I don't see that as a difference in blockchain-based companies. But I do want to emphasize on a few things. Yeah. Number one, I think for blockchain companies to do well, there must be a certain level of marketing. All right. And when we talk about marketing, it has to be very focused and it has to go a long time. It's not something like you work with maybe a partner, for one or twice, and then that's it, and then you work with another partner one or two times or three times, then you change the partner, because it doesn't work this way. Because in order for marketing or a PR campaign to work, you need to run at least a 6 to 8 months period to get an effective kind of return, right? From whether it's from a community or whether it's for the company, you have to do that in the longer term, and you have to be focused. The wrong things that I do see from a lot of crypto companies is that they will approach multiple companies just to do maybe a collaboration together. To me, is actually a waste of time for the project. It's a waste of time for the PR agency or even the marketing platform. You know why? Because all these gigs are all short term. You will not get the kind of returns that you want. And very often, some of the companies that I advised and so forth, I told them, if this is your strategy, I wouldn't want to fault you, I wouldn't say no, it's wrong or whatever, but this kind of strategy is just fairly fly by night. Because if you want to do this, you can always go out to all the different media companies and then pay them maybe like a guest post kind of thing. You just send them the article, post it onto their website, and then that's it. But by doing so is the easiest way. But is this a sustainable way? I don't think so, because that way will not bring you any new community. They will not bring you any new following, because the strategy is not there. And again, I do see companies right now who are building communities. They go for big quantity, not quality. So there must be a certain balance, from there. Because if you look at maybe a Telegram group, out of which I think many of them are just sleeping. They are not going to move. They're not going to talk. Some of them may be bots as well. Is that going to give you any good presence? That's not going to give you any good brand presence. So again, in order for a blockchain company to move well, certain elements or certain things that we do in the traditional market must be replicated onto the blockchain project to get the right kind of attention, to get the right kind of returns from this whole process. Else you will just be losing money in marketing, and then that's it. Because publicity comes at a price, but maintaining the publicity and the strategy is actually the most important thing. It's not about the few $1,000s the company spend. It's not about how much they do during this token sale period, or IDO period. It is the consistency and the same messaging that's going out that is bringing good returns for the company. So I hope that answered part of the question, because in terms of the space of how companies market or how they position themselves, in the space right now is a very bad thing. Everybody just come out of a website, just a few concepts, and then that's it. Some of them, they don't even do any marketing. They just post on their own Medium page, and they don't get many claps. They don't get many views. That defeats the purpose. If you produce a good document, if you produce a good article, you should try your very best to promote it. If you are not going to promote it, then must as well, forget about producing the article, because no one is going to read it. It will just be a part of the Google search engine, because Google searches everything, right? So again, we have to take the right steps to make sure that the marketing side of things makes sense for the companies.
Definitely, and thank you for this reply. I think for many companies and many companies overall, many entrepreneurs go into blockchain because they may want quick returns and because they lack patience. And the only way to win is to have this patience and think in the long term, independent on which industry you work in. So it's really the patience pays off, and long and steady wins slow and steady wins the race, as I say. Yeah, so now I would also touch a bit on the topic of regulation and your work here. I wonder where the regulation of digital assets is moving overall, and specifically on the cross-border level, because the problem that, for example, we have and what we help clients with in terms of tokenization is that they won't often do a global cross-border raises to raise capital under private placement regimes in the US, in EU, in APHC, etc. And the rules differ in each country. So we probably research a few dozens jurisdictions and private placement rules in each of them. And if we get the same thing with virtual asset service provider licenses, for example, that would be problematic as well. A crypto exchange, something inherently global, would have to be registered in each jurisdiction, which is ridiculous. So on your opinion, how would regulation, especially on the cross-border level, will evolve? And will we have this problem of being limited to one country?
Again, because this earth that we are living on right now is not working very closely together. Different governments are not really working very closely together. G20 some days ago, they could always talk about this, right? But they kept quiet, right? So I think the very broad question is regulations going to take place cross-border or on a global level for blockchain companies such as exchanges? I think the answer would still be no. There's no way you could really, stop all these transactions going left, right, and center, because after all, right now, what the crypto market is doing is facing a global market. It's no longer localized. It's no longer bounded by geographics, right? So from an advisory standpoint, I think for companies first, for companies, they should get themselves in a crypto-friendly regime. Singapore, you could always go for the Payment Services Act, get yourself registered, and if you make money, you pay the tax. I think it's very straightforward, but most recently, especially right at the end of 2020, I felt that Singapore suddenly became not the top choice, for all these crypto companies anymore, because they know that the regulations kicks in and it's difficult for them to navigate, difficult for them to be in Singapore anymore, right? So that is what Singapore did. Is also one way of regulating all these different companies. By doing so, regulations are in place. If they dare to come in, they must comply, right? So I think this is one way, right? How Singapore does it. UK is also following the same footsteps, so forth and so on. But right now, the current trend is most of these companies, perhaps a US company, they know that it's sensitive to raise big amount, 30, 40, $50 million. They want to hide behind an entity. So they will still choose like a BVI company or even a Panama company just to hide behind. to make sure that they can do what they want, without implicating SEC or without implicating themselves as a US citizen. Is that fair? I think it's fair for them, but it's not fair for the users and the investors. If you are going to hide behind an entity, and the investors are actually fronting it, saying that I've invested in it, it's not going to be fair. And the whole process will be a bit lopsided, as the company grow bigger, go into 100 mil or even a 1B company, then things got to change again, right? So I think most people or most companies, they should do the right thing right at the start. If they felt that this company is going long term, is going ahead, with good plans, with good enough fundings, they should straight away just go for proper registration of the company, getting the sufficient licenses to support your business and pay the tax if you manage to you manage to make money, right? Because all these things got to be there. All these things got to be in place so that the government can support you, so that your company can get a certain status in different countries. So again, the regulations got to be there, the taxation laws got to be there, how this can be accounted should also be there. Because right now, to be honest, all these taxation laws, maybe tax on gains and so forth, to be honest, it's not very clear cut at all. There are many different ways that companies will say that, okay, I have no gains, for the next few years, I will not have gains, because what they do is everything is on their wallet. Their wallet is not audited. There are many, many different wallets are not audited. So in a nutshell, nothing is going to be taxed, right? So I'm not going to say how this can be done, but the thing is, it can be done. It just needs proper support from the government to make sure that all these different wallets or all these different companies are audited to a certain compliance standard. If not, none of the government bodies or none of the companies will benefit from the tax, or coming to the point is there's no tax at all because you can't account for anything. So regulation portion, I think we have to make sure that it is foolproof, and make sure that everything's accounted for. The right wallet. Let me mention this again: the right wallet, the company's wallet, the custodian wallet. All these things got to be declared. If there's no such declaration, then it doesn't work at all, right? For any regulated bodies, right? Same goes for the decentralized network where we talked about earlier. That will even take a longer time because everything is decentralized. There's no name tagged to it. There's just a picture, maybe a very nice cartoon picture, and that's it. So again, it's not going to work right now. But in time to come, I'm very sure there are ways to overcome all these issues.
Yeah, probably old school crypto guys won't be very happy with paying taxes. After 10 years, they didn't have to any, but it's time for the world to change, for bigger players and everybody else to move into crypto. And I wonder, you are working quite a lot with larger companies who adopt blockchain solutions such as Hyundai, for example. So interested to hear your perspective about what challenges do large corporations face when adopting blockchain? The challenges of maybe restructuring internal procedures, or fitting in with regulation, or maybe the inherent just structure being too old. Wonder how it works.
I think bigger companies, they have more layers of compliance, more layers of approval, and so forth. To be real honest, the bigger the company is, the harder the adoption will happen. Just to let you know, if you talk to the very big companies, maybe even Dell, Apple, and so forth, they may be using the blockchain technology for certain part of their business, but certainly not the full business. If you are talking to larger businesses, maybe again, like Hyundai, like Samsung and so forth. The usual way that some of these bigger companies or tech companies do it is that they will form a separate arm, purely on blockchain, purely on crypto, so that it will not affect their public company. Whether it's going to be a stock or it's going to be their position in the market. So usually they will separate it out. MicroStrategy, is one of the first few who bought it, and from a corporate level, they buy Bitcoin and place it in their balance sheet and so forth. Are we seeing more of this in Asia? I don't really see big chunk of listed company doing that, but I know of quite a lot of listed company funded companies. They are actually accumulating Bitcoin, accumulating Ethereum and so forth. That's from a more speculation standpoint. And I also do see that the bigger companies are creating sub-companies to run their blockchain solution. So if anything fails, they could just X off the subsidiary, and it will not affect their core company. I think increasingly, this is a trend. Increasingly, blockchain solutions are part of their talking point and part of their journey in tech adoption. But it's going to take some time. So in summary, bigger companies have a lot more restrictions in adoption, but their way to bypass that is to look at creating sub-companies to do the trial run or to do the test. And if anything happens, you can just close down the company. So this is how the bigger companies' mindset are right now.
That's probably a smart solution and a way to generally diversify risk and separate this company so that it doesn't get eaten by the old processes and the old way of doing things. And Andy, I wonder what kind of blockchain applications you're most interested in?
I think on a more personal level, I do look at a couple of technology or a couple of companies or a couple of protocol, but I am very certain and spending a lot more time on the decentralized networks and decentralized protocol. So one of the project that I work closely with is called CZZ or ClassZZ.com. They are a very interesting company, and it is known as the first programmable trading block network. So right now, if you can see, a lot of exchanges, in the current space or in the current network, they talk about moving assets from exchange to the wallet and to the user, and or even converting a certain coin to another protocol, and everything seems to be done very seamlessly in the exchanges. But surprisingly, I got to know that all these transactions are actually not done on real time, and it is not done on both sides of the ledger, right? So CZZ itself, whenever there is a transfer happening from maybe point A to point B, or there's a swap with a token A to token B, they actually do the transfer, and you can actually see all the transaction on chain. And this protocol itself is able to use on multiple chains and multiple standards. So that is something very interesting, because as we progress on to a more decentralized network or a more decentralized environment, we do really need to see real blockchain transactions, real transfer of assets from point A to point B to point C. So Class ZZ or CZZ is one of them that I'm looking very, very closely with, because I felt that this technology will be very useful in time to come, when we move on to a more mature network. Apart from that, from an investment standpoint, I'm also looking at more technology-driven companies, because I felt that technology-driven companies, of course, again, with some good marketing, is going to go a long way, because hype is going to fade sometime, but good technology, good foundation will go a very long way. So technically, tech projects that has that property will also be part of what I'm looking at. So again, it goes back to the point why I'm speaking with both Ross and Boris, is because I do felt that your company, Stobox, is trying to tokenize and trying to bridge traditional assets with the current digital assets, right? So that will again bring us good credits, in time to come, and you will see more users or more companies changing their mindset and trying out the whole tokenization process, to benefit themselves and also to benefit the whole blockchain community. So thanks for all the questions, Ross and Boris.
Thank you for your kind words, and I definitely agree that one of the bad things about blockchain space is how many companies with creative, fascinating, sophisticated technologies we have that are disruptive how we operate. So thank you for being with us on this interview. Thank you for sharing the insights on regulation, commercialization, community, and how the blockchain adoption is going. It was a pleasure to speak with you.
Yeah, thank you for
Thanks,
great
Boris.
replies.
Thanks, Boris. Thanks, Ross.
To all of our viewers, we have many other exciting interviews with industry experts and rockstars that I definitely encourage you to watch to learn more about regulation, tokenization, and where the crypto is moving. And also you should check the blogcast, the media where Andy is involved, and when you can get more great interviews and insights. So stay tuned and see you in the next interview.